Agreed. Return to your ship and make your way to the Sanic system at maximum warp. Hopefully, you will make it there before the Fek'ihri.
We have been piecing together what the return of the Fek'ihri means, if they are truly demons from Grethor, beings that impersonate them, or perhaps some amalgamation of both. But this has led us to the tales of the lore singers, custodians of the mythology of the Klingon people, and the histories of Kahless. We learned that the sword of Kahless, the first bat'leth, was a weapon that the Fek'ihri feared, and it is said to be able to hold sway over a Klingon's heart. In 2369, Kahless returned to life in a fashion. DNA from the knife of Chiron was used by the clerics of Boreth to grow a duplicate of Kahless the Unforgettable, and he was imparted with the knowledge of their tales and mythology. Their view was that the Klingon people had lost their way and that Kahless's teachings were being forgotten. Their ploy was found out relatively quickly as a cloned Kahless, but he found a position as Emperor within the Klingon Empire. So the Empire itself has not been ruled by an official Emperor since around the 21st century with Emperor Sompek. Instead, the Chancellor has sat at the head of the High Council, so the title was mostly ceremonial. Instead, he was used as a motivational linchpin for the Klingon people and afforded a degree of respect as a representative of the Klingons in various matters. Despite his status as a figurehead and merely being a clone of Kahless, well, the Emperor's words and opinion had a rather hefty amount of weight behind them, and his opinion did sway many a warrior's mind. Others, however, never took him for more than his origin as a clone and saw his lackluster prowess in battle as further reason to pay him no heed. In 2403, Kahless handpicks a crew from the Order of the Sword to crew his own ship, the IKS Battle, and departs the Empire to win glory for himself. 5 years later, he appealed to Worf, after hearing rumours that the ambassador had found the sword of Kahless at some point, and resolved to find it for himself. He did this in order to prove to the Klingon people, and probably himself, that he was more than just an imitation and that he could forge his own legend. According to Worf, he has succeeded in this quest, and is now in the Sanic system. And in order to get to the Sanic system, I guess we gotta go fast.
Sensors are picking up readings of a destroyed Klingon fleet in the area, but there is one remaining ship. Trying to get a fix on it. It is the Emperor's ship! We are not too late. Attempting to hail them now!
Come to join the fight, have you? Good! There's no better companion in battle than a Klingon warrior! We were ambushed on our way back to qo'nos. I must warn you, as strange as it may sound, we are fighting the Fek'ihri.
Yes, my Emperor, they're the reason we're here. They even attacked qo'nos itself.
Foul demons! I thought I had rid the Empire of them forever. A mistake I will gladly correct now. More of them are inbound to my position. See if you can intercept them while we get my ship back to a battle-worthy state.
This mission has been overhauled and used to feature the Breen heavily, but this is no longer the case, and instead the focus has been brought back to the Fek'ihri Horde. The Breen feature no more than the fact that Sanic is in the Beta Quadrant within Breen territory, despite it actually being very far from their established borders, but hey, there's a war on. We close in to protect the Emperor's vessel. It appears that the Fek'ihri have already scrapped the rest of his fleet, and the ferocity with which they are attacking his ship certainly seems fueled by millennia of resentment. It seems they made an attack against qo'nos and simultaneously against Kahless, trying to sever the Chancellor and the Emperor in one go. The Fek'ihri immediately break off their attack against the Emperor's disabled vessel and turn to engage us and Kagren's ship. Good, that's what we wanted.
The Emperor's vessel is still heavily damaged. We cannot let these demons destroy it.
The IKS Battle, which is a really hard word to pronounce, is aptly named a Kahless-class vessel, which itself is merely a variety of the Boreth class. And the Boreth class is the 25th frontline flagship equivalent of a Sovereign or Odyssey, and a strong representative of the KDF overall. Basically, it is a relatively top-of-the-line ship, so it's no wonder that it's actually weathered the assault of these aged Fek'ihri warships. But there are a lot of them, and more inbound.
send their flagship to challenge us. This will be a glorious battle!
A Fek'ihri Gotad carrier is next up, and it launches a large number of smaller fighters that continually harass. The smaller ships themselves aren't particularly powerful, but their constant pricking at our deflectors prevents them from regenerating. It doesn't matter how many of these smaller ships we mop up, as the carrier can always spawn in more. They also fire off a salvo of slow-moving, I think they're chronoton-based weaponry. Either way, the two Klingon battleships and the Fek'ihri prove more than a match for this ancient carrier, and eventually it goes up in flames. All that's left is to mop up the smaller fighters still flitting about. So let's talk about the system itself quickly. There's a lot of floating rock in this system and several terrestrial worlds, neither of which would make for good habitation. So I guess the breen of welcome to them. The star is old and giving off a dying red-orange glow, and the main planet of the system is constantly bombarded by debris and pulverized dust while immersed in a fog of volcanic vapor. Its location away from standard breen territory makes it a bit confusing as to why they'd want it.
Sensors are clear. That was the last of them, at least for now. Incoming hail from the Emperor's vessel.
Quickly, but put him on.
You have fought well, warriors. There is more to be done, however.
We're not picking up any more ships. What is it you need, my Emperor?
The Fek'ihri managed to beam over several boarding parties during their last attack. I would be honored if you would join me in purging them from the decks of my vessel.
It would certainly be an honor to fight at your side.
Very well. Beam aboard with your best warriors and put an end to these dishonorable creatures. Kapla!
So the Kahless of old has had innumerable tales told about his deeds, most of which are no doubt caked in hyperbole and twisted in myth. That Kahless is said to have slain 500 warriors alongside his eventual wife and accomplished no small number of feats that defy logic and, frankly, physics. This Kahless is just a man, and one with programmed combat experience at the point of his creation. Therefore his skills were subpar at best as a warrior and downright non-existent when compared to his legend.
It's cold. Life support must be failing. I'm picking up numerous Fek'ihri life signs. It looks like they're targeting the crew, working in several critical areas.
Sounds like they're trying to eradicate every Klingon on board. It's like on Qo'nos. They don't seem to care if they make it away.
Indeed. Let's deal with them first. Give the crew the space they need to repair the ship, and then head to the bridge.
Back to my point about Kahless' strength. While he was easily overwhelmed in 2369, this is 40 years later, and while he has aged, he has also gained much experience that he formerly lacked. He'll probably never reach the formidable mythology of his precursor, but then again I doubt even that the Kahless of old could match his legend. Sweeping through the corridors, it seems the Fek'ihri are simply ravaging everything they come across, system or crew. As before on Qo'nos, the demons give no thought to their safety and blindly charge us, spitting acid and clawing away.
Wave of weapon containing damage to this area!
The air is frigid, and as warming as the fires are, they cannot be allowed to burn, especially if life support is offline and oxygen is limited. Although freezing to death in the bowels of an overrun vessel is not a good way to go. Bam! I like this erosion rifle I found. Although there are small numbers of Fek'ihri walking the corridors, the bulk of them seem to be congregated on areas of conflict with the crew. We find the mess hall in the midst of a battle with spectral enemies floating all over while the demon horde attempts to claim the souls of these warriors.
We'll bunker down and use this area as an emergency station.
We can see that areas of the ship have even been frozen over. Entire segments of the bulkhead are encased in an icy wall. Perhaps a water supply burst or something, or it's just so cold in here that frost is beginning to form. Basically, the original version of this mission, it had the Breen attacking, not the Fek'ihri, so the ice damage and cold temperatures would coincide with their use of cryogenics as a weapon. While the voice work, enemies and assets have been replaced with the Fek'ihri, the map of the IKS battle is still the same. We follow the criss-crossing of corridors to our next destination and another segment of crew quarters. Not every room is full. Some are long since cleared out, and I find it unnerving that there are so few crew seemingly left for such a large vessel. Surely there should be more. We aid some more of the crew before pressing on, passing more empty, overturned rooms. Signs of battle everywhere, but no bodies. Either the crew is faring rather well, or the Fek'ihri have done something with them. Well, Kahless's original crew were all selected from the Order of the Sword, so I'm going to choose to believe that they're doing rather well. Bam! And of course, the demons just run through the fire as if it's not there. What was I expecting from Grethor after all? Ah, yes, right, there's the big guy from earlier. Another encounter down, and another series of emptied rooms. Hopefully the crew got away. After too long coming across nothing, we eventually find the sickbay, and I regret noting the absence of bodies. While there are only a couple of Fek'ihri still here, there are several Klingon corpses. These are likely the wounded from battle who perished in the cold or when the demons came. Nevertheless, the deck looks to be clear of threats for now, so we scan on ahead, and Kagran reports.
The engineering was heavily damaged. If we know this, there is a good chance the Fek'ihri do as well. They may strike there next.
I mean, if they want to kill everything on board, yeah, you could do that from main engineering.
Let's get down there. We can secure the deck and stabilize the ship's power systems before things go from bad to worse.
We retrace our steps to the nearest working turbolift by the mess hall and proceed to the engineering deck.
Let's see if we can find an engineer. Life support and main power are on the verge of collapse, and we will need their help to stabilize those systems before it's too late.
I like that the line here is keep an eye out for the Fek'ihri. They could attack at any moment whilst we're being attacked by Fek'ihri. Fek'ihri. After wiping out the immediate threat, we take to the office to the left of the turbolift and find the chief engineer, wounded but standing.
Thank you for your assistance, but we don't have time to enjoy the glory of battle. The Fek'ihri have done a significant amount of damage to the warp core. Containment is failing, and there will be a breach unless we can bypass the damaged conduits.
The right-hand office has no survivors.
I must reset our environmental controls and main power. Keep those demons restoring. The Fek'ihri must come down the main corridor to enter. Hold them at the entryway.
Stuff goes from 0 to 100 real fast, as a massive wave of enemies wash down the corridor to the engine room and throw themselves upon our hastily formed defensive line. We have a few seconds to gather and regroup before another wave comes. But we need to keep them from entering the engine room and disrupting the only engineer we have. Now, the fact this vessel features only a single corridor to main engineering must be a conscious effort on the designers of Klingon ships. There is only one way to charge the vital position, and it is a choke point easily held.
I need to repair damage to the intermix chamber before we have a blast release.
Enemy target.
Bringing main power back online.
And while we are doing an admirable job holding off waves of demons, that engineer's efficiency cannot be overstated either. The man is single-handedly keeping this vessel online and repairing main power in minutes. What a ledge. Eventually, the Horde ceases to crash against us and we risk a quick look back into the engine room. It seems the core is back online, which means that the ship can begin to get back to operational status. My man, you did it!
The warp core is now back online and fully functional. Ship sensors indicate that the remaining Fek'ihri boarding parties are attempting to take the bridge. You must stop them from taking the ship and the Emperor!
The bridge will not last long without our assistance. We must head there at once.
Correct, I imagine they've been attacking it since they first boarded. Our next objective is the bridge then, which means back to the turbolift and riding it down the long neck of the Klingon-designed ship to the command centre where the Emperor awaits us. And we arrive at the rather spacious bridge to see Emperor Kahless himself, blades drawn, in battle against a dozen Fek'ihri of various forms.
You made it! Good. Now we shall fight side by side, as warriors born! Ha! I fought Fek'ihri thousands of years ago, and they have not grown any stronger!
There are still other warriors present too, probably the bridge crew.
Crush the Fek'ihri! Drive them before you! Hear their lamentations all the way back to Grethor! We defeated the Fek'ihri before, and we shall do so again!
Once again we see the towering form of Dajar, Lord of Bindings.
No demon can stand against a heart that beats with honor!
In his hands a mighty battle axe, and seared on his chest the upturned sigil of the Klingon Empire, the sign of Grethor. But we defeated him on qo'nos, and yet he is here. Perhaps he really did return to Hale, and then come back.
Savor your victory, Clone. Your defeat will come soon enough.
His body definitely disintegrated there, and yet we continued to hear his voice. That's worrying.
A glorious fight! Come, I would speak with you, warrior.
Not wanting to keep the Emperor waiting, we approach, and I can't help but notice that is not the sword of Kahless.
You are a stout warrior and a fine commander. Truly, you know what it means to be Klingon.
That is an honour coming from the Emperor.
There will be time for songs of honor and blood wine later, warriors. Now we must discuss the treachery of the Fek'ihri. Though we still live, the enemy has taken something most dear from us. The sacred blade I forged long ago in the fiery depths of Cryptic.
So, the sword of Kahless.
The same. While we fought the Fek'ihri here, their fellows managed to breach the chamber where the blade was stored and escape before my warriors could stop them.
I guess it makes sense not to keep it on you all the time, but so they just took it and left?
Before you arrived, Dajar taunted me with his plan. Unwise, but the Fek'ihri have always been arrogant braggarts, and fools besides. They mean to besiege the monastery on Boreth and offer my weapon in ritual sacrifice to secure the rise of Molor from Grethor.
A ritual? Really? They act like mindless savages in combat, but there is a clear intelligence behind them that leads me to underestimate them.
Indeed. For my part, I must go to Boreth and put an end to this wickedness. I will not allow Molor to return, even if I have to kill every Fek'ihri in the galaxy to do so. And you, will you join me in the fight against these demons?
Yeah. So Dajar has died before us twice and returned, and now they have the sword of Kahless before we arrived, and they intend to use it to resurrect Molor, the tyrannical ruler, and in some ways leader of the Fek'ihri. I'm not sure it can actually be used in that way. Roka, despite being Klingon, is a scientist and a skeptic when confronted by Klingon mythology, yet here I am fighting beings that fit all the check marks of supernatural creatures alongside an arguably resurrected Kahless. So we should probably do something about this ritual. And while exploring the bridge, can I just point out how they have little pillows which are probably for the ship's targ or pets to sit on? Which is just awesome. Klingons really do love their battle pets, don't they? We beam back to the Kos'Kri.
Your report is disturbing. The Fek'ihri nearly killed Kahless and stole his blade. This must be avenged, and soon. The people of the Empire must believe in the strength and honor of their Emperor. I am placing you under the direct command of Kahless. Do whatever is necessary to reclaim what was taken from him. If you can bring an end to the Fek'ihri, do so. War with the Federation is enough of a challenge. War with the hordes of Grethor may prove to be our undoing.
I love how Jimbok cuts right through all the bluster. As much as I do like Kahless, I can see exactly why many warriors think poorly of him. Yeah, demons literally just appeared and stole Kahless' most prized possession from him and ran away. Even if he did manage to hold them off for hours, it is not a good look. And now the resurrection of Mola might be on the cards? Mysticism aside, the Fek'ihri believe that this ritual will work, so they're going to target Boreth. Which means the clerics are going to need defenders. So that's our next destination. It's also fun to see how this level's been overhauled. It is a far more streamlined encounter, and the repurposing of the icy damage from the Breen presence to a failing environmental system is a great touch too. With how things unfolded in the overall narrative, including the Breen now would stick out as another plot thread to juggle, so them being edited out, I think, is a good choice. We know from previous Stos episodes that Kahless does get the sword back because he uses it to 1v1 the Ket during the Iconian War, where he then perishes. The fact that he was able to stand up to an Iconian and even sever their arm is testament to his grown prowess in battle, yet many still see the Emperor as a pretender, despite the propaganda to the contrary to bolster morale. You can tell the Chancellor, even complicit in trying to maintain this image of Kahless, doubts the clone's ability. Even though he is no shoddy combatant, it's the image that counts. So, as for this next mission to Boreth to recover the sword, well, maybe we'll get some answers as to what the Fek'ihri actually are. I mean, we know as players that they were created by the Dominion some 2,000 odd years ago, but they're not acting like foot soldiers, and they seem to be bound up in a strange sort of supernatural, dimensional Grethor kind of magic, almost. And things are only going to get weirder. So, I hope to see you for the next part of my Star Trek Online story series as we continue to explore the ever-being revamped narrative of Star Trek Online. Thanks again. I've been Rick, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye and Qapla'.